Hey there, everybody. Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you. And I want to make sure that you understand that this is not a paid Alpha Wolf promotion. I am strictly a full-time investor that happens to believe that the retail investor and consumer can make a difference on Wall Street and in companies that need their support. So, as an investor, what do? There are a lot of different lenses that we need to look through. We need to see what's happening in the world around us, pay attention to the news from the companies, any executive changes that may occur, anything that could impact the performance of the company and their ability to execute their vision and their plan. So as investors, what do? We get investor updates. We interview new executives that come on board, and we just find out what's going on with the companies that we are involved in. I want to make sure that you also understand I am not a financial advisor. Any investment decision that you make must be your own or a licensed financial advisor. I hope you enjoyed today's interview update with Joel. In progress. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up. You guys might have thought I was going to forget about Auudia, but they have a big event coming up in about 7 days or so, right around there, 7-8 days. Jeff Thramann, founder of Auudia Inc., which is actually going to be changing the Auudia app name, and Jeff's going to share with us why that is happening, but pretty cool story. And Jeff, thanks for coming back in, man.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Yeah, big day coming up on the 15th where we really launch kind of the rebrand and the new app, which we're going to be calling Faidr.
Faidr. Now, there's a reason behind the name. Maybe you could go into that real quick for us.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason behind the name. And just to point it out, first off, the Faidr, it's spelled F-A-I-D-R is the way we're spelling it. So there's really two main reasons for the change. But one of the things we've been able to do over the last 6 months is upgrade our marketing department, and they took a look at what the name of the app was here, and it was a little confusing with the name of the company being Auudia, and then having an app by the name of Auudia as well. So they were looking at the app itself and saying, what are we really trying to do here with this app? And particularly with people who are going to listen to radio to get that local content, what are we giving them? And it really came down to giving them control, right? And if you look at who has controlled the audio that you would listen to on a radio station over all these years, it's really the DJs and the program directors. They decide what you're going to listen to, and that's all you get. Well, we're changing that, right? And we're transitioning that control to the user, so the user can decide what they want to listen to. And when we started looking at how DJs put together their programming and the content that they give you, there's kind of this fader bar on the equipment that they use to fade in and out of various content. And we looked at that as a great metaphor for the control that they have to give to the user. And we're kind of transferring that over to the consumer. So we decided to call the app Faidr, and we've spelled it F-A-I-D-R, with the AI being a nod to the artificial intelligence platform that we've built to actually transfer that control. So pretty slick application of the name and the marketing. So it'll be Auudia Inc. will be the company, and our two main products now will be Faidr and Vodacast on the podcasting side.
So real quickly on Vodacast, I saw an announcement that actually made me very happy. And it was that you guys had announced a partnership with Podcast One.
Yeah, we've announced two partnerships now with the Believe Network and with Podcast One, where we're starting to see, we're taking a test number of podcasters, and they're starting to build out these feeds, and then we're following up, the data that we're getting there, and then trying to layer in some modeling on what monetization looks like for them. And this is a direct result of the previous press release we put out that showed, significant retention and significant activity in that digital feed. So this is really just an expansion of that.
So, I don't know if you're aware, but Rob Ellen, Live One is another one of my favorites, right? So
yeah,
it was very much, makes me happy to see that you guys are partnering up. So that's a very good thing. I can't wait to see what kind of data gets presented from. I think it's 4 stations or 4 podcasts that you guys are going to start with, right? Just like a test.
Exactly. And we did the same thing, we believe, with 6 podcasters there. So we'll get a good flavor of how to really optimize these feeds. And, of course, this is really a precedent for our release of the first flex revenue capabilities, which we think is going to be a real game changer in the podcast space. Very similar to what we're going to be doing with Faidr, where we're giving people control over what they're getting. The flex revenue is going to allow you on the fly, really, to eliminate any ads from podcasts. If you want to listen to it commercial free, you pay 25 cents or whatever it might be, and you can just toggle over to that. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to lock yourself in, that sort of thing. And we think that's going to be really important, not only for podcasting. We think that's going to carry over into Faidr, and we think that's also going to carry over into print. I mean, how many times have you pulled up an article on the web and you get through the first paragraph and it's like, hey, now you got to subscribe to this. And
I hate that. That pisses me off.
Yeah, you want to subscribe. Can I pay 50 cents and read the damn article? That's the kind of thing we're going after.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's so funny that you guys, there are so many companies that I interview, and, there's different companies that have very bold visions of the future and microtransactions on the blockchain, where one of the perfect examples has been, you pull up an article you want to read and it's the Wall Street Journal or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, you can read the rest of the article now if you spend $200, which I don't ever want to do. I want to read that one article. That's it, but I think the consumer would be so happy to be able to say, for 25 cents, I can just read that article, right? That to me is consumer choice, better choices with better product, which is what we've talked about before, right? And we talked about, I'll never forget my first interview with you when you said you could look at us as a disruptor, but that indicates there's a loser and a winner. Or you could look at us as you're a creator, you're a solution, right? You're for everybody. It's a win-win-win across the board, right?
Absolutely. And that's how we look at everything. We start with the consumer and we say, what's the problem the consumer is having here? And then we recognize, content providers don't create problems for consumers on purpose. It just happens. They have their needs, they have their business model requirements, they have their technological capability, and they work within those confines to provide something to the consumer. But all of those things create resistance and friction. If you take a step back and you look at it straight from the consumer perspective and you say, hey, what are the problems here and how do you avoid them? You can see that technology can almost always solve the problem. And then it becomes, what's the business model that works for the other side, for the content creator, so that then it works. And then if you provide that solution, then it works for everybody, right? It works for the consumer, it works for the content provider, and it works for the tech company and the solution provider, which is where we sit.
So come the 15th, all right. So when I wake up at 3:30, well, no, at 3:30 a.m. Yeah, when I get up at 3:30 a.m. and I turn on my Auudia app, which I have on my phone, right? I downloaded it, and there's X amount of stations, like a handful of stations right now that I can add as a station, right? But come February 15th, I'm going to be able to search 4,000 radio stations, right?
That's correct. And it may not be quite as smooth as that. And the reason I say that is because when you submit upgrades to the App Store, for instance, they get approved and then they replace whatever's there, right? So we're ready, and I don't know if this is active right now, But that Auudia app that everybody has is probably going to transition over to, let's say, a Faidr intro app,
Okay.
maybe within the next day or two. And that's only so that we can get some additional upgrades in, because there's certain things when you go through the app store you want to make sure you're going to get approval on, and then you layer in the additional things after that. So for February 15th, the full app is going to be by February 15th. So it could be possible that tomorrow or the next day you get a Faidr app that still doesn't have the 4,000 on there, but has some additional features and just rebranded and looks different, but may still just have the same commercials. And then the full 4,000 or so aren't there until the 15th.
Okay. So right now, I went to Auudia.com, and I mean, this is where I land, which is, download the app, find your favorite radio stations, personalize your experience, select your preference content, listen interruption free, and enjoy, right? And then you got the 2 downloads here to download the apps. Like I said, I downloaded it. I'm just waiting for the 44,000 stations to show up.
Right.
So I can start customizing my channels. But
right.
I read you guys put out some data on the, let me see what that was. It was some metrics from, let's see here.
Probably from that pilot we were doing in
the Sonoma County stations.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And the click-through conversion rate of 11%, right?
Yep.
Which is 3 times the industry average.
Yeah, we thought this was because these are early metrics, and remember we didn't really get Sonoma off the ground till the holidays, right before the holidays, and then you have a little bit of a lull on radio during the holidays. So this is really data from January. So we didn't really want to get into retention and downloads and everything else because we thought it could be, obviously retention is going to be completely misleading. So we focused on the data that we thought is indicative of the consumer response and the consumer interest, in the product that we're offering. So that's really the click to install ratio. So these are people who heard an ad or saw an ad somewhere, a digital ad, and they clicked on that digital ad to learn more. And then they went through and they followed through and they took the steps of actually downloading and installing the app. So that's a really good sign to have a ratio that's that much better than what would typically be seen on a music app. We think that's a real strong indication of consumer interest and very encouraging for our February 15th launch.
Yeah, no, this is exciting, man.
Yeah, no,
I can't wait to see. I mean, so I pulled up Auudia Inc. and we're going to make sure this is accurate. But if you download the app as an early adopter, you're going to have some level of premium access for life prior to the 15th.
That's right. We set that up primarily through our Sonoma pilot, so that anybody who came in early and experienced the app and went through it would be able to get the premium service that we're going to be providing on February 15th, essentially free for life.
That's awesome. All right. That's awesome. So, I mean, if you are interested in this product, download the damn app, right? Go buy the stock, then go download the app, and then tell all your friends to download the app.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And tell all your friends to love the app. And
and we would prefer that you tell them to download it after February 15th.
Correct. Right. Let them know on February 15th that this is a badass app they need to download and put on their phone. Great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What else, Jeff? Anything else you got exciting that's happening right now that are any catalysts that you see coming up in the near future besides this massive rollout?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's really about the rollout, and we're going to have to educate folks on the various tiers that we're coming up with. Previously we had talked about 4 different tiers. We've combined that down to 3, and so it's going to be a free tier that we put out, and then we're going to have a $5.99 tier, and then the full premium tier at $11.99. And one of the reasons we did this, and I think it's a great move by the team, is to really go out into the marketplace with, hands down, the #1 free tier that's out there, because everything starts with driving people to the free tier and then upselling them on the new capabilities. And if you think about it, and you look at the various folks that have been trying to aggregate all the different radio stations out there, TuneIn was really the first group to go after it, and they were founded in 2002. And then the next group that came after aggregating, radio stations where you could just listen to the standard radio station, but on a stream, was iHeartRadio, and they came out in 2008. And then CBS came out with radio.com in 2010, which is now the platform for Odyssey when they switched their name, earlier in 2021. So, but out of all of those platforms, nobody has yet been able to mimic the dial. Nobody can give you every station, every major station that's out there. TuneIn is missing all the Odyssey stations. Odyssey is missing all the iHeart stations because they're competing against each other. So for the consumer, and again, that's our perspective, for the consumer, there's no place you can go to get all of the radio stations, in one place to mimic the dial. And we'll be doing that for the first time. So now, not only on the free tier will you get every station, doesn't matter who owns the broadcast, but you're going to get every station on that platform, but you're also going to get some control. So we're going to offer the ability to switch content manually. Now in the free tier, when you switch content manually, let's say a commercial comes on that you don't want to listen to, you can just skip it. And what we're going to do is we're going to play some other content. So it's really a switching function, right? We switch you to some other content that you listen to. Typically it would be music from that station. And then once that piece of content is over, we're going to take you back to whatever the radio station is playing, right? So it's not our premium experience. So if they're still in an ad set, you're still going to come back to the ad. Or if they're in the middle of a song, you're going to come back to the middle of a song. So it's really mimicking that idea of pressing the dial and jumping to another radio station. So we're going to include that on the free tier. Nobody else has anything like that on the free tier where you get any control at all. Now, when we bump them up to the $5.99 tier, what we're going to do is we're going to give them that manual switching capability. But when we take them back to the station, we'll take them back when the ad set is over, and we'll take them back at the beginning of content. So it'll be closer to our premium experience, but it's still manual. And you're going to have access to content that's when we switch you to a different source of content. The content we're going to switch you to is going to be some of our premium content. On the free tier, it's only going to be free content that's available. These would be like independent artists that are just trying to get exposure, stuff where we're not paying sound exchange on. So basically free content on the free tier. But once you move up to $5.99, that's going to be more of the premium content. And then of course, the $11.99 tier then becomes, all of that is automated with the AI platform.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm so excited about this. Let's take a look at the chart real quick. Which, look, it's not going to be a pretty picture, but it hasn't been a pretty picture for small caps and micro caps for 9 months. So I don't feel as though this is what's interesting about what's happening right now, though, is let me go to, this is actually a weekly time frame. I'm going to go to a daily. So you actually just reclaimed the 50-day moving average, which is, for technical guys, a big deal, right? To be below a declining 50-day isn't great. This is what I will tell you. So you had a recent low test at about, and that was an all-time low, right? Of around $1.50. So what often happens, at least in technical analysis land is that the price will go back down and test that low. Does that make sense? It'll come back down, it'll test it. And the reason it does it is basically to confirm that that's the low, right? You might get a pierced for the day. It might actually take out the low, but by the end of the day, it closes back above this 150 area. That would be confirmation that just held as support, right? And then maybe you start with a new trend up. Now, I'm not saying that it absolutely has to go back and test. Sometimes you don't get a double bottom test. Sometimes, right now it's bumping up against $2, which is a resistance area. And if it takes $2 out, I think your next area of resistance somewhere around 225 up to about 250, 260. But what happens throughout that process is you wind up taking out this long-term trend line, which is more important, right? When you break a long-term trend to the upside, that could be the beginning of a new long-term trend. And being that it's matching up to a catalyst, and I'm looking at the strength. Now, the only thing that is tough is it's a thinly traded stock, right? That's part of the issue right now, is that it's, there's no real serious conviction like there was back here, right? In volume, it's light volume. So in an interesting spot, it's definitely set up for, if it breaks through there, I think you're on a trajectory, at least in the near term, to the upside. Does that make sense? Because you have the catalyst. Right.
Yeah, it's funny. We don't look at this kind of analysis, obviously, when we're doing things. We focus on telling the story and positioning to deliver on the story that we're telling. So, and if you look at the volume, what we find is interesting. If you look at the volume, I think the volume really started slowing down after we said that we were going to launch on February 15th. And I think people are waiting. They're waiting to see, what are we going to do? Are we going to be on target for February 15th? We are. And then they're going to wait and see, what kind of results are we getting? Now, we won't have that for, let's say, 90 days after launch before we really know, what people are doing and what the retention looks like. And we'll be putting those numbers out. The only thing we know so far is really the click to install rate and the amount of interest that we're seeing from consumers. So that's what we put out so far. And then when we go do our marketing, in those first 90 days, our marketing is really focused on, we're targeting the streamers. We're targeting the folks that are already listening to TuneIn or iHeart or Odyssey. And one of the reasons there is they've already overcome the hurdle of moving from an over the air broadcast to a streaming platform. Now we're just going to give them much better capability. And what we learned, and the reason we have those high click-through rates, is those ads were targeted in that direction towards those streamers. And if you recall all the way back to our study that we did with the Harris Poll folks, we pulled almost 2x number of people saying that they would be extremely interested in purchasing our product from people who were already paying for a streaming platform, already on a streaming platform, as opposed to people that were on the over there listening. So that's going to be our first 90-day targeting. And we're going to do that in only 3 cities at first. We'll announce that when we do our release of what cities we're targeting. But that's going to be the initial kind of 90 days of pushing on the marketing side. Now, obviously,
it's open to, every city is going to be able to, every city should have a radio station that they can put on their phone, right?
Right. But we're only spending money on marketing dollars in these 3 particular cities.
Okay, I got you.
To try to really get the data, because there's a whole optimization strategy to the marketing dollars too, right? And it's almost like doing these research studies where you want to say, okay, if we target these guys with this message, what does that look like? Okay, what if we flip that message to this? So some of that's going to be ongoing for these first 90 days as we really dial in exactly what the best way to spend those dollars are, and the best way to partner with broadcast radio stations to get that word out. And then after those 90 days, that's when we'll be doing the bigger push.
Just out of curiosity, Jeff, did any of the big boy radio stations, did they kind of change their tune and want to partner up with you towards this grant, did you receive any more, I guess, opportunities from radio stations once you announced that you were going to be doing the February 15th rollout?
Well, that really hasn't been our focus right now. Our game plan was actually to get it out and then have the discussions with the broadcasters.
Okay.
And so that's our game plan. We've learned that having the what if discussions isn't as productive as saying, here you are, here's what we're seeing on the platform, and then really trying to dial in those relationships. I will tell you that we are building an automated onboarding process for those radio stations, because we do have some incoming, particularly from the smaller broadcasters wanting to really jump on the platform. So we're going to need a process there where they can do that online, so that we don't have a big, BD team just, onboarding everybody.
So it'll be a relatively simple process for them just to onboard themselves without having to involve anybody.
Exactly. And it's a simple process, and we'll outline the whole revenue sharing model and how everything works and how they qualify for that, the data that they'll get, the whole 9 yards. That's all being set up for the launch.
Oh, this is so awesome, man. I mean, the other thing too is people want to see what the app does. I mean, right now they're hearing about it, but once they get to test it and try it, right, that's when I think you're going to get a ton of feedback, right?
Yeah, totally. And probably another thing that's worth mentioning here is that when we launch on the 15th, the stations that are going to be fully enabled are the music stations, which is somewhere around 75-80% of the stations. And we'll be layering in all the talk stations will be what we call Faidr enabled, probably towards the end of the quarter, maybe a little bit into the second quarter. And the only reason for that is it has to do with performance of the AI platform itself. And we don't get into a lot of discussion about this, but the AI platform is really a 3-step process where the first step and the core step is this true AI neural network type of capability, which you have to train with massive data sets. And we've done that with music, we've done that with advertisements, and we've done it to a certain extent with talk, but talk is pretty far behind on volume there and a little bit below the performance criteria we like to see on that first neural network step to give a great user experience. So what we're going to do is layer that in as soon as that capability is completed towards the end of the quarter.
Got it. So what's awesome is that the more data you're collecting from more stations, I mean, you're going to start collecting a boatload of data, right? I mean,
absolutely, a lot of data. And there's another huge, revenue opportunity that we don't really talk about that much, or we haven't so far. When you hear us talk about giving people choice over what kind of content they can listen to when something comes up on radio, and we talk about the ads being a natural, because when you poll consumers, that's the number one thing they'd like to avoid if they can. But they also get other content that they may not like, or there's content that they prefer to have. So one of the big things that we provide, and we keep focusing on this idea of switching content, because we're really not skipping anything. We're really switching people to an alternative form of content. So one of those pieces of content that the polls are telling us the consumers want more than anything else is more music discovery. And when you have over-the-air music playing, right, there's only limited amount of stuff you can put out there, because research has shown that consumers want repetition. They tune in to get those top songs. But for a lot of people that are heavy listeners to those stations, they'd like to see a little bit more variety. Well, over there really can't do that. But we have all this extra time. Ads themselves are 25% of every hour, where we can put in, new content. So the new content that we're really putting in is this content from new artists, aren't yet, broken onto radio, but are starting to trend. And these artists are coming from all these other platforms out there where people are able to creators are able to kind of get their name out before they're picked up by the labels. So these unsigned artists who are on SoundCloud, who are on Spotify for Artists, where they're distributing their music. And there's this whole business now. I don't know if you've been following this space, but these independent digital distributors, right? They're competing with the labels, and the labels are responding by creating their own. But last year there was one of these groups called Believe Music. They have a product called TuneCore. They're the first ones to go public, and they went out last year at a $2 billion valuation. And then you just saw recently DistroKids. They got a funding round from Insight Partners, valuing them at $1.3 billion. And then there was another one called United Masters, which had 2 funding rounds last year. One at 50 million, which was their Series B, led by Alphabet and Apple in March of 2021. And then you had A16Z come in October of last year, and they established a valuation of 550 million. So this is all for these independent digital distribution platforms, right? So they're distributing music out. They're just basically allowing these creators to connect their music to all the different platforms out there. So they'll connect them to SoundCloud, to Spotify, to Pandora, to wherever, so that they can get their music, out there and get this distribution, and they'll manage, the payments and that sort of thing. But here's what nobody has: not the labels, not SoundCloud, not any of these distribution platforms. Nobody has the ability to take those artists that are trending, that are looking like they're getting pretty good. Nobody has the ability to take those artists and then insert their music into the largest radio stations in the country and put them right there, and then get data as to how their consumers are responding. But if you can do that, which we can, now you have the best A&R capability in all of music. And now you can actually pivot to adding on and becoming a label.
I mean, look, this is life-changing for some people, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's life-changing. It's funny that you bring up the people that are out there. I mean, there's this guy on TikTok. So my friend is getting married, proposed, big event, and they just found their wedding singer, and they found him on TikTok. He's got like 1 million views, or no, 1 million followers. He's not signed with anybody, but this kid, unbelievable voice, unbelievable voice. You would look at this guy and you would never think it in a million years, but phenomenal voice, right? And there's so many guys out there like that, right? That don't have a platform to really get their music out on a national level, like you just said, on the biggest radio stations out there.
Yeah, and that's still the holy grail to really get broken, is to get onto radio. And if you can get that data from that radio station's listeners on the Auudia platform or the Faidr platform, you can take that data directly to the program directors of those stations and start moving up. SoundCloud, there was just an article from Billboard about SoundCloud. SoundCloud's completely pivoting to this model, where they're leveraging the data that they see to identify new music genres and new artists that are trending, to start putting dollars behind them and turning into a label. They picked up a company last year called Repost and are rebuilding that technology to get them to connect all those artists to other platforms. So competing against themselves, letting them put their music on Apple and Spotify and the rest. And they're doing it all for the data. And they brought in 3 new music hires, including the new CEO that they just added, to really go after this digital distribution thing. So we think there's a big opportunity for us to partner there. And we think there's an opportunity for us to partner with all of these groups, these platforms that are competing in this space.
Yeah, this to me is just this. We're in like the first inning of this story.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
we're in the first inning of this story, and I think it's gonna heat up quick. That's my view.
Yeah, listen, radio's been on the defensive since tuning aggregated in 2002. Right, they've been on the defensive as iHeart's come around, as Spotify's come around, as Pandora's come around, Sirius XM, and they just have not been able to really respond. But they're still a huge player, right? They have 200 million plus people listening every month. They have 85% reach throughout the country. They're a huge player and they haven't come into the ecosystem. The 800-pound gorilla is coming now, and they're coming on our platform, and we're going to see, how that changes the space. And we have a pretty clear vision for that, and think we're going to do pretty well.
I mean, there's still the 800-pound gorilla, even with all of those services out there. Apple, all of the services out there, the radio is still the 800-pound gorilla, right?
Yep.
But they're not priced like the other guys. They're priced
because they don't have a solution to deliver the content in a personalized manner without interruptions like everybody else can. So that's what we're bringing to the table. So it gets back to what I was focusing on before. We focus on the consumer and we identify what's the consumer's problem, and then we look at the business model of the player, which is radio in this case. And what you really see is the problem is they have stuck in an ad model. They don't have a subscription model. They can't give the consumer choice. It's one-to-many broadcasting. We solve all those problems, get the broadcasters more revenue for every listener that moves over to the stream, rather than getting destroyed right now for people that move over to the stream. They have a listener right now that moves over to their stream. It's a loser for them, right? They now have to pay sound exchange fees, which they didn't have to pay before. And the advertisers are discounting the CPMs on the streams, even though they're getting total line reporting ratings from Nielsen. They're turning around and saying, yeah, we get it that you got TLR reporting, but we also know that the streamers don't respond to the ads as well as over the air, so we're not going to pay you as much. So when you really analyze it, our internal calculations show that they're making an ARPU of about 50 cents a listener on the stream right now, and that they're making an ARPU of about just under $4 on the over-the-air broadcast.
Wow.
Depending on how you do the calculations, right around $4. And if you flip them over to a Faidr listener, so listening on the Faidr stream, that ARPU is going to be about $9.20 or so there. So it's better than over there. It's better than the stream. And it's a hell of a lot better than just the 50 cents they're getting on the stream today. So as this comes out, we think the writing is on the wall that the broadcasters are going to get behind us on this.
Well, the bigger thing is consumers need to get behind you, right? We need a boatload of apps downloaded, man, after the 15th.
That's where it all starts. The rest is noise, right? Until we have users, it's all noise.
Right. I mean, that's the key. And my view is this: I don't care if you're an investor or not an investor, if you're just a young kid that happens to love the app that has $200 that wants to pick up 100 shares and put it in your stock portfolio and just hold on to it for the next 10 years, right? See what happens. Because I have a feeling this is going to be one hell of a story. I mean, there are too many avenues. There are too many benefits to this thing. And I think was it me that shared the Harvard article about true disruptors and
you did, yes.
What you are doing is almost to the T of what the Harvard Review article stated, right? Which is that disruptors don't get determined over a year. It takes a long time to really disrupt something, right? To make change. But it's such a phenomenal story because you are disrupting, but you're helping. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like something you don't typically see in business, right? Usually you see one guy trying to put the other guy out. You're trying to help everybody.
Yeah, well, we think there's a big hole there, and we've, technology has evolved to the point of being able to come up with a solution, and we've taken advantage of these AI capabilities that are out there, applying them to radio, which is a perfect medium to apply these deep neural networks against, and it's working phenomenally well. So we're excited to show everybody that, and we're going to keep, pushing the story.
Let me ask you one question. Any concerns about the 15th? Like, what if you have like 20 million downloads? Could you guys handle that?
Well, that's the beauty of our model, and we've talked about that before. We distributed our entire technology platform to the mobile phone. So all it is somebody downloads their app, the entire app, everything runs on their phone. So we don't have increased cloud server fees. We don't need to spin up so we don't do anything. You download the app on your phone, and the power of your phone allows you to record the radio station that you select, and our AI model runs on your phone. So you process the stream that you record. It's all done there. So we can go to 20 million users tomorrow. No problem at all.
It's awesome. Jeff, I can't wait to see how this story develops, man. I'm so excited. I am going to do as much as I can to, make people aware and get them to download that app after the 15th. You guys can download it before the 15th. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, let me stop recording. Unless there's anything else you feel as though you want to get out, I'm going to stop recording. I think we've done a pretty good job here.
Yeah, no, all good. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Alpha Wolf Trading and a follow-up interview with Jeff Thramann, founder of Auudia Inc., ticker symbol AUUD. I hope you liked today's interview. And if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about give us a share? And while you're at it, why not give us a follow? If you like today's story, big date coming up on the 15th. If you like this product, download the app prior to the 15th, and you will have some layer of premium content for life with Auudia. If you like the story, I think the stock technically sits in a very interesting area, and you have some potential catalysts coming up on the 15th. They need your support. Go download the app. All right, until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.